Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Regional Instructional Coaching Network Lunch and Learn for the month of November. I can't believe I'm saying that. I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. We're excited that you're with us today, and thank you for taking some of your precious time to join this community. If you would please sign in at the link on the slide, and Matt also dropped that in the chat box for us. And then you can also get access to our slideshow through the link on the screen and then in the chat box as well. So we would really appreciate you taking a minute to sign in. Just for your understanding and awareness, we have the Instructional Toolkit available that we sent out in the reminder link yesterday. And through that, you can access the slides for this meeting as well within that presentations folder. And then there's also a folder for archived lunch and learn meetings, and that's where you'll find our session recording for these meetings. So we're gonna go ahead and start recording our meeting. But what we want to make sure we communicate is we are really just recording the session content at the beginning, and when we open it up for discussion and sharing later, we will make sure that we cut off the recording at that time so we all have a safe and open space to share together. So as you can see from this first slide, honestly, if there was a way that we could all be sitting in a room together, having a cup of hot cocoa or coffee or tea or whatever it was, I think that would be fantastic. And as much as we've always loved this community, I think we appreciate it even more since we've been away from each other. So we're really thankful that we still have this opportunity to gather together virtually. And we hope that on this kind of rainy day that you're snuggled in your space and you're ready to learn and grow with us today. All right, so our time together today, we're going to kind of have three separate sections. The beginning, we're just going to take some time to express gratitude. We're going to move into a conversation around peer coaching, and then we're going to have some coaching collaboration time at the end of our session. So we are incredibly thankful for you. For all of you, as you not only invest in your colleagues, but in the students that we all serve together. So we're thankful for your dedication, for your resilience, as you navigate not only the everyday challenges that come with education, but these trying times that we're experiencing as a greater culture. So we just want to express how thankful we are for you. We get to work with a lot of you outside of this network, and you continue to be persistent and creative and just give so much grace and understanding to all the people who are entrusted to you, and we're so thankful for that. What we wanted to do for you is to give you a moment to send a quick text or an email to someone, either in your personal life, because we know how much our families sacrifice so we can all provide the care for others that we provide, or someone professionally, just to let you know that you see them and you appreciate them and you love them, just to let them know that you're thankful. So we're just going to take, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, and please, this is where I'm giving you permission, pull out your phone, pull up your email, and we're just going to send some gratitude into the world today. So let's just take a couple minutes and do that. Okay, well, I'm going to bring us back together, and if you're still finishing up that thought, please feel free to do that. That's the beauty in what we do, is when we get to, as leaders, kind of set that stage for valuing people over some of these processes and projects that are sometimes entrusted to us. I think it's really important for us to remember that we have the opportunity to do that. So I hope that this just few moments of gratitude is a blessing to you as we start our time together today. All right, so now we're just diving into the content here because I really want to make sure we have a time to share. And you'll kind of notice I did kind of a strange fusion in the slideshow today. So we kind of have those warm, fuzzy, cozy slides, and then we have some kind of these structured, linear type of slides. And they're all relating really to home and how we make improvements. So Matt did a stellar job. I can't even compete with him as far as coming up with the themes. So he knocked Saved by the Bell out of the park last time, if you were with us, right? This time is home improvement. So really it's just putting all the different tools in our toolbox and knowing when to use the different things to go through the process of creating both the systems, both the structures and the framework when we're building a house, right? We need to make sure the foundations are there. We need to choose solid materials, right? That's all very important, but we also get to, again, create that culture. So when our teacher teams and are in our classrooms, which is kind of like thinking about, being around our coffee table or our kitchen table or snuggled in at home and all those cozy things that we were talking about earlier. I just think it's really important to think about how in instructional coaching, we have a really unique ability to live in both of those spots, right? We have some systems level lenses that we work through, and we really get to have voice for our instructional leadership teams at the building and the district level based on the coaching conversations that we have with teachers. And we also get to speak into that classroom culture piece and everything that's happening again instructionally. So we just really live in this beautiful in-between. It's kind of like a slinky, right? Sometimes you feel like you're all in one spot and other times you're all in the other spot. But when we're in a beautiful ebb and flow, you kind of just slinky back and forth between those two. So you're going to see some evidence of that kind of in the way I've structured the presentation today. So we're going to kind of hit that again, peer, culture, warm and cozy, and then kind of that instructional systems piece as well. So really quick, we're going to do a bit of a waterfall chat. And again, this is the Instructional Coaching Network, but what we know, especially over the last several months, is that, our roles shift. They ebb and flow, and we have instructional coaching opportunities, but we also have opportunities to really embed ourselves in shared leadership structures and be leaders in peer coaching as well. So let's talk for a minute, and I want you to think about the elements of peer coaching and how it's similar to or different from instructional coaching. So take a moment to reflect on that. And then in the chat, I would love it if you would share how peer coaching feels or seems different than instructional coaching. How is it different? So if you come up with something and can put it in the chat, that would be great. And if you're not sure, that's okay, because that's part of why we're having this conversation today. All right, I don't see anything. So I'm going to continue the conversation and hope that maybe this will help equip us a little bit better to have conversations around what's similar in these coaching types and what's different. Heather, that's exactly right. I think peer coaching tends to be a little more informal, and we're going to talk about that in another slide really soon. So I'm glad that you said that. So I think in my mind, and I don't know, I would love it if, all of my coaching team and other friends, of course, please feel free to unmute and share as well. Again, peer coaching tends to come a little bit more without those labels, right? It's not like, okay, this person's a coach, this person's a coach, they have this title or this identified role, right? It is more of that elbow to elbow. There's not one identified expert or trained person in coaching per se. It's that shared understanding that we all sit around the table with a common goal and hopefully, again, have common trainings and responsibilities. So when we're talking about peer coaching, it's really, implementing those evidence-based practices, taking the professional learning we've done together as a team or a building or a district and looking at how that translates into our classroom practice. It's those authentic conversations that really come back and include students as well, like talking about, even classroom observations and how students responded, and really less about the teacher's role in that at times. When we're doing instructional coaching, we're very, very focused on the goals of the teacher and really improving their instructional practices. And of course, we know what an impact that has. But when we're in peer coaching conversations, we're a little bit more fluid and flexible between teacher practice and student feedback based on that. And again, looking at data as well as a huge element of that. We find from the instructional coaching side, I think that the benefit for teachers is when we're doing our official instructional coaching cycles, it tends to be a little more intensive. a little more individualized, a little bit more sustained, perhaps over time. There's a lot more follow-up. There's a lot more planning than there tends to be with peer coaching. And again, when we're also instructional coaching, I think we're really encouraging teachers to be a lot more self-reflective. And that's a part of the process when we're peer coaching that I think that we don't always get to that level of depth, perhaps. So I think it's really exciting to see. I think peer coaching really does value what everyone brings to the table, right? We're all experts and we all have these beautifully diverse exposures and experiences that inform our practice. They inform our instruction and the way we interact with our students and our colleagues. So I think that's really important. Again, we find that there are benefits to both. And again, there is a little bit more research around the evidence of impact with instructional coaching. We know there's a little bit more variability in peer coaching, and I think that tends to be related to the training that's available. We tend to have some more formalized systems and structures and training with regards to instructional coaching. One of the reasons why all of you are with us today. But I think we wanted to have this conversation because it really does it's both, right? We all know that as we function in our day-to-day roles, that we do a lot of formal instructional coaching, but peer coaching really is a big part of what we do. And if you are a part of any shared leadership structures or school improvement, we know that this is embedded in our work daily. So we are all a part of, TBTs and BLTs and DLTs, and we serve at different levels. So our ability to be strong coaches in all of those environments is really different. And we're going to work through something later that's going to help kind of build our capacity in that peer coaching level as well. So I think it's important to talk about, why are there options? Why are we talking about these different types of coaching? And Jim Knight had something to say about this. And he said the solution is really to create structures that provide focus for human experience while respecting the autonomy of each individual. Complete freedom of choice without structure or form is not the solution we want, because it's chaos. However, form without choice is oppressive. So I think it's interesting to think about, and as some of you shared last meeting and in some written feedback we've gotten, we've heard and we completely understand that, coaching looks very different from building to building, from district to district, but we know that there have been challenges and that many of you have been pulled into classrooms more than you ever have been before. That maybe that kind of provided and protected space for instructional coaching hasn't been able to happen as it has in the past. So we just really wanted to affirm to you that you really are still functioning in your role, and you really are, strong peer coaches, and you're providing that support for your colleagues as you are just showing up in whatever environment you're being called to that day. So we're really thankful for that. All right. Again, based on your feedback, we just wanted to talk about how peer coaching really addresses some of the instructional coaching barriers that we have talked about. So again, peer coaching tends to be a little bit more embedded, right? It becomes part of the school culture. Again, job embedded professional learning. So perhaps you have gone through training recently, Acadians or letters or anything like that. And you're really being called to implement and work through data, again, at the TBT level, or you serve on your building leadership team. But it really can become part of the daily practice. So again, whether people are opting into your coaching or scheduling or being a part of an official coaching process, they are receiving coaching from their peers. In most cases, just within the function of your school day. And that's really important. It's motivating. We know that collective teacher efficacy is Hattie's #1 strategy for increasing student achievement with an effect size of 1.57. And peer coaching, when implemented well, again, along with instructional coaching, because we know we all are here because we believe in how powerful this is and the impact it can make, is really motivating, right? We have a shared goal. We're a family, right, that's coming together to help everyone get better and continue to grow. So not just our students, but we believe in the power of that for one another as well. Again, peer coaching can feel a little more inclusive at times because all teachers are peer coaches, again, within those shared leadership structures, and all teachers will participate in the coaching cycle. So that's kind of how we navigate that barrier of, gosh, I've marketed myself well, right? I've branded myself. I learned how to use one of the great tools that Matt has shared with us, and I've sent out my schedule and I've asked people, to participate and told them what I have to offer, but not everybody's kind of biting into that, right? They're not sure about that yet. So the coaching support we can provide within the structures that are already there really does help us to be inclusive and to make sure that all teachers are receiving some level of support. And then again, peer coaching is adaptable. It's adaptable to the context of the school and all those opportunities that are provided, again, based on perhaps your professional learning that's taking place. All right, and so I think it was Heather that said earlier something about being formal or informal. So I think we tend to think as we look at examples of formal coaching, kind of leaning more towards the instructional coaching lens. So that's talking about our gym night coaching cycles. That's things like co-teaching very intentionally and co-planning, modeling teaching practices for colleagues. And again, those are a little bit more systematized. They're a little bit more structured. They're a little bit more planned. They're goal-oriented. We're looking at data for feedback. And again, there's usually some form of self-reflection that we ask when we're embarking on these processes together. Peer coaching tends to be, again, a little bit more inclusive and collaborative, and these tend to go more on the informal spectrum. So again, your teacher-based teams or your professional learning communities. Perhaps you're working together on an article or a book study. You're having conversations around student work, writing samples, things like that. You're perhaps looking at a video analysis, either from one of your team members or for something you found online that aligns to a professional learning opportunity, and you're having some discussion as a team around that. Perhaps that collaborative coaching looks like your intervention planning meetings. So that can be any range across the spectrum: IAT, RTI, MTSS, even PBIS. We have found some really good examples of collaborative coaching as experts come together to brainstorm. And again, I think that the beautiful part of that is, again, there's not one specific expert a lot of times in these conversations. It's just, how do we all take our knowledge of this practice or our knowledge of this child and come together to really solve a problem? And again, instructional rounds, where everyone participates in this, and we're all going to really work on looking at what is best practice. And we're going to each, pair up and choose to be a part of what's happening in one another's classrooms so we can learn and grow together.
Jen, I have a quick connection to what you were just talking about. I'm thinking too about how you're kind of building an army around yourself. Like, some of you may be in a formal, very defined coaching role as an instructional coach. And, you may be working through the impact cycle with your people, but then as you are doing this work and delivering PD and building relationships with people, there's peer coaching happening as well, right? Informally, whether it's sanctioned or not, there's always relationships happening teacher to teacher. So I think that brings comfort to me sometimes, even in my role, knowing that it's not all up to me. Like, I'm leading in certain respects and you're all leading in certain respects, but it's the people that we're leading with that really creates some synergy and really brings forth that change. So although we as individuals might kind of slinky back and forth between these roles, I think also think about your people that you're doing this work with and those leaders in your building who are having conversations in the lunchroom and who are doing some of this work in more informal capacities, and how you can pour into them and get on the same page so that your work gets aligned. Just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of this time together is we just wanted to affirm all the great work. We get a different lens than you all do. We get to kind of step out of that and we see all the investments that you're making. And we talked about this last year a little bit, that sometimes, we know the value of formal coaching cycles. Absolutely. Again, we all believe in it or we wouldn't be here, but we also know the value of, hey, I noticed you didn't eat lunch today, and dropping off a granola bar at somebody's desk. Or you know what? Why don't you, I know that your little girl had an orchestra program really late last night. Is there anything I can do to help you this morning? Because I know you always stay after and you were kind of in a rush and there's a lot going on in your life. Is there anything I can do for you this morning? And we know that you all are in these positions because you do these things and you have a extreme amount of knowledge and skill set, but that alone does not move people forward. It's really understanding people and being able to make those just very human connections that we all know you do so well. So as we hear feedback of, I would love to be doing these coaching cycles and I know what we're capable of and we can do together. We of course want that for you too. We want you to do that, but we also just really want to say, we see you all doing so many things that are making a measurable impact in the culture and climate of the buildings that you work in. So please know you are coaching. You are doing some really, really important work every day. And we just wanted to affirm that and kind of just really intentionally have this conversation to point all these things out. And to also build your capacity into talking about, what your role looks like as an instructional coach. And again, all these other things that fall into coaching that sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for, I think. So that was why we felt this was really important today. All right. So last year we spent a lot of time talking about the social emotional aspects of our work. And I just wanted to add that lens again to peer coaching. So I found an article and it's again linked in the slides here at the bottom, and it's not necessarily specific to education, which I'm so happy that we've hit this point, that, we've realized that we can learn so much from psychology and neurology and health and wellness. And there's all these other things that really make our work stronger and really take care of us as people first. So we're strong enough to show up for everybody else every day. So there is some research around peer coaching and how it can make work less lonely. Okay. So when you think about peer coaching, and again, I think this is, my analogy brain. I just think of that as like that elbow to elbow work, right? So peer coaching is really that social support that creates a culture that values connection. And this is just going deeper than those conversations at the copier. Where we know, those are really important and they help people connect, but sometimes they're a little, it's kind of spazzy, right? Like we're in a rush. Peer coaching takes it to the level of like, we need to be present and sit down together, so it's a little bit deeper level of social support and really extending those things that we know are valuable to us as people so they can make an impact on the work that we're called to do. Again, it's about real talk. So when we're peer coaching, that gives us opportunities to come together because we're all kind of on a level playing field and say, yeah, me too. I heard this thing at a training and I was so excited because I was going to come back and do it the next day. And then I realized we don't have the materials. What are we going to do about that? Or I think this works really well for this group of kids, but what about these kids? Oh, you know what? You have 2 kids that would work with, and I have 3. And you know what? Maybe we should come together and do this with these kids and figure out what to do over here as something different. So it's just that real talk opportunity when we're doing peer coaching. And again, consistent relationship. So the more we can engage with each other consistently, we know that we feel more psychologically and physiologically safe in our environment. And when our nervous systems are regulated, we're much more able to engage with each other, engage with our students, engage with our families. So there's a lot to think about with regards to peer coaching and the value it adds to us as far as making our work a little less lonely. Okay. All right, so gosh, we're about halfway through. This worked out great. So now you can see I'm back to my warm, fuzzy sofa picture here, but we're going to move into really our community of practice time around collaboration. And we're here because this really is a community of practice. We have something in common, and that's we're all coaches. And that looks different. Our context might be a little different, but the content and the roles that we play are very similar. And we want to make sure that you have a space of people who have similar roles and responsibilities to really just work through things that are coming up for you. So I am going to share a protocol with you, and we're going to work through this protocol together actually one time. And it's going to feel a little formal and a little funny, but I promise it's going to build our coaching skills. And again, give you an opportunity to lead within those peer coaching conversations, which I think is going to be really important. Again, it's going to feel a little different than those formal individual coaching conversations, but it's going to allow you an opportunity to do something with a group of people where you can still be that lead voice, but you can facilitate all of the other team members really contributing to the conversation and really getting to show how their experiences can make the team better. So this is from Learning Forward, and it's called the Consultancy Protocol. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have whoever is willing share an issue, any question, and really how it's causing a challenge for you or an opportunity that you even might have, and you have an idea about something, but you want to say, I don't know what to make this look like, right? I don't know what to do. And then we're going to have some critical friends, which is all of us, kind of ask for some clarification around that question. You'll notice it says not suggestions, okay? So we're not going to dive in and say, I think I would. Have you tried? We're not going to do that right away, actually. We're going to ask some clarifying questions. And that's going to be helpful for us as coaches, but it's going to be helpful for our friend that's posing the challenge or the question to us. Then we will go to the next step, and we'll just kind of offer some perspectives, some curiosities, wonderings, suggestions, or maybe recommend some strategies that have worked for us. And the part of this I love is then the person who posed the question is going to reflect on the comments and say, you know what, that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. I think the next thing I'm going to try is this, okay? And then all of us are going to say and chime in and say, because you posed this problem and we had this collaborative conversation, this is how it helped me as well. Because we really want to talk about how this is about reciprocal relationships, and we all have a role to play for each other. So I was a little skeptical of this at first, and I'm going to look over at Amanda. She's going to laugh at me because I kind of struggle a little bit with A, B, C, D, E. You know, I'm much more of a feelings person, but I've worked through this actually with a couple different groups of people, and it was just a really, really beautiful conversation both times. So if you can take any pieces of this and implement it in teams you're working on, that would be my hope, that there's something, you know, even beyond today and our time together that you can take from this. So is there anybody that's willing to pose a question and work through this